Alright, good morning, folks. Afternoon, Jesus. I'm just gonna try recording this real quick just to see if it'll even work. Because I'm starting to get annoyed at how I'm unable to upload TradingView ideas. So test 1, 2, 3, let's give this a try. Yeah, it works. Cool. Start. Let's do it. That's rare. Because that didn't work the last time, two times I tried it. But the VPN is off and the firewall is on. Hey, folks. All right, let's talk about Bitcoin. So we're getting some really crazy readings on the 4-hour chart for Bitcoin. Not the 9-minute chart. That's weird. Daily chart. First thing I need to point out is this super obvious breakout structure and why it makes me super concerned. We are so deep in this structure, and I don't even feel like finished drawing it, because you know what I'm looking at, right? This compressionary structure that we have over here. And I just want to compare it to the BLX chart for the full history, because what we're getting here is super similar to this here, right? Where we have the initial run-up from the market bottom, followed by an intense compressionary structure. Boom, baby, where it just does nothing but go sideways for a really long time. And then the bull run happens. And that's really appealing. I like that. So, one thing I want to point out is this trend line here. And we're pretty slow today. Come on. All right. So what I'm looking at is this trend line, right? Because it looks like that Bitcoin had this super tight compressionary structure of the symmetrical flag, right? And what's really important is to draw your broken structures, because what we typically like to do in hindsight is to draw our breakout structures as they appear in terms of volume and movement. So this is what the structure should look like if we're going back in time and drawing it. Whereas we have the inclination to draw it like this, right? Like, oh, this is an ascending wedge. That's what we are inclined to say, because the bottom of the structure is more inclined to look like that, right? Where we have the bottom edge that's perfectly fine, and then we get the upward move. Well, the problem is we actually had the bullish breakout here before getting rejected, dipping below support and then seeing the rocket, right? Because we had such a super well-defined trend line here in the bottom, but that trend line broke to the downside, right? After having a bullish break, right? So we have the bullish break from this trend line, which gets a lot of longing volume, which we can see here. And then, oopsie daisy, we actually broke this trend line, which gave us insane selling price action. Look at that. Right, where we get that huge downward initial move, and then boop, then the buying actually comes in, right? Because we break the trend line first, and then we go. So what would that look like on current price action? That's the golden ticket, where we would get this downward descending price structure, woo, followed by a more obvious resistance line somewhere around there. We don't really have anything defined yet. And then a super obvious bottom structure here. So what would that look like? Well, we would go up, test whatever that resistance line would be before dipping down, faking y'all out, and then trend resumption. That's my guess. That makes the most sense. Now let's talk about the 4-hour chart. So we're getting a super rare signal on the 4-hour chart. And it is every value below the 0.4, or about below the 0.7 on the wave PM, right? So that means every single Bollinger Band, 14, 50, 100, and 200, have sufficiently compressed to be in a state of high potential energy. And that's confluence. When you have high confluence of high potential energy, well, the slightest little tip tends to lead to a significant move. And let's see if we can find a prior example of this. Goodness, here's one. So every value is below 0.7. And then we had the breakout, which resulted in what I think might be significant trend. Let's find out. So did we get significant trend from this breakout? Why, yes, we did. It was a pretty big move. All right, well, let's find another example, because that apparently worked pretty well. So all we're looking for is a state of high potential energy. Everything's below 0.4. Boom. We get a little breakout. Which way does this go? So from right here, positively weighted CCI, what does that result in? Significant upward trend. All right, very nice. Let's do it on the daily chart just to prove a point. All right, I can point out one of the most prominent examples right here. High potential energy all throughout this section. So what happens when everything starts expanding in the same direction? We get significant trend to the downside in this scenario, right? Because when that expansion began, boom, 50% drawdown. So we're getting that same reading just on the 4-hour chart. And then, oh, look at this. Look at this over here. High potential energy where every period's below 0.7. So what happens when you get any kind of upward expansion? Trend. Oh my God. You do this over and over and over and over and over again. So what do we have right now? We have high potential energy. All we're waiting for is implied direction. All right? And I'm actually going to set an alert right now and then take a very aggressive position when this triggers because this is pretty reliable. What we are waiting for is for wave PM Yamix. We want band 1 oscillator crossing up wave PM band 3 oscillator. Bitcoin breakout. All right. If you subscribe to these indicators and you have these indicators, set this alert. All right. And it's either going to be a long or a short. Wow. Imagine that. So whichever way, the CCI is weighted when that signal triggers. So it might be to the downside or it might be to the upside, right? So all we're looking for, right, because every wave PM value is pretty much sitting on 0 right now. So once we have all those periods either weight themselves to the bottom or to the upside, we'll know which way to take the position. And that will happen, coincidentally, at the same time that the wave PM signal triggers, right? Because wave PM signals trigger on expansion. And what causes expansion? Expansion is caused by price action being outside of a 1.25 standard deviation of a relative period, which is represented as mean absolute deviation on the CCI through lateral trading. Yes, I know my disk is almost full. So, what happens? Expansion is caused by being out the 1.25 standard deviation, which is represented as the negative 100 and 100 values on the CCI. So when we get that cross on the wave PM, we'll have our weighting. Boom, or bang. So if we're below when that signal fires, we short. If we are above when that signal fires, we long. Simple as that. Easy as that. All right? It is very, very rare we get a signal like this, maybe once every 3 months, at least on a more macro time frame like the 4-hour or the daily. Super rare signal, at least in terms of Bitcoin volatility. I'm sure if you were trading futures, you would consider this common. But because we are short-term swing traders, something this clean is very rare to come by. So I am super, super, super happy this is happening because I'm actually going to be able to sleep well tonight if we get the signal today, because I know I'm going to have a highly profitable position with very strong direction that can potentially lead to long-term trend. All right, you're getting a short-term entry into a long-term trend, and you're entering before anybody knows about the trend is happening. All right, this is the secret sauce, my friends. This is the future. All right, I'm going to bet my reputation on this. All right, if we get the wave PM cross, boom, and we get comprehensive net expansion, trend is going to run in whichever direction the CCI is weighted. Simple as that. All right, this is a very high success rate scenario. If it doesn't work out, cool, I'll stop out of the position, and hopefully you will too. All right, it's not all or nothing, guys. Don't go 20x long on this. Just go 3x or 5x. That's what I consider high leverage for Bitcoin. So know how to play risk. That's my biggest point. And because you're entering on expansion, your stop loss does need to be a little loose. Let's talk about that. All right. So because we're entering on the beginning of trend, it means you're going to have to use initially a trailing stop before support is defined. All right. So just be safe. All right. You're going to use profit ratio over values to actually define your stop loss. And because you're betting on long-term trend, that means you can use a generous stop loss, right? Because if, say we take a long and we expect significant higher highs and long-term trend on breakout, then your stop loss can, I don't know, be maybe 10 to 1, right? Just play the risk as you would relative to the position. That's the important part. I'm going to check the YouTube comments now. We're getting a bullish break on Ethereum, which is particularly nice. Great Days asks, so could shout both ways and come back to 10,200 like was an OKX other day? Are you asking if there's going to be significant volatility pops one way or another? Yeah. We could bet on that. To prevent that, you could actually just wait for candle close before taking position, which, I mean, you do end up missing out on a bit of the position that way, but you save yourself a lot of pain, worst case scenario. Also, Doge might be breaking out. I'm interested in that. Might buy some Doge. Doge is king, my friends. If this volume spike actually turns out to be something significant, I am going to go hard on Doge, okay? There's always a test pump before the real pump on Doge to test liquidity. All right, so if you get large-scale move on Doge, it is preceded by a smaller move, smaller volume pump, right? Before you get a large move, you get a small move to test liquidity and sellers, all right? Before you get a large move, you get a small move to test liquidity and sellers. This happens over and over and over and over again, all right? All right, before the large move, you get a small move to test liquidity and sellers, and so on. Always a test pump. Test pump beforehand. Beautiful. And so on and so forth. So if we actually do end up having a significant breakout on Doge, cool, buy the swing low, see what happens. Of course, that also means you could enter in something like this. However, if I recall correctly, this was Binance listing. Or was this Binance listing? I don't remember. Wow, it's been a long year. Anyway, let's talk about Ethereum, because that interests me. I don't know if we're getting long-term trend reversal on the Bitcoin pairing. Volume looks good. Yeah, the best thing we could do is check for bullish mean reversion, because this volatility overhead is really clean. So let's take a look at ACAT. It's reading as a maxed out period, so I have to put it in manually. We want to look at the 300 period, roughly. This is going to be a soft pivot, okay? 300. Actually, if it were to reject, it would reject here. So, maybe consider a short? Yeah. I might sell my Ethereum holdings here. If it keeps going up, I'll buy back in, but risk is super high right now in terms of just waiting for rejection. As far as the USD pair goes, that's sloppy as hell, and I don't feel like dealing with it. I would like trend continuation because I'm long-term bullish on Ethereum, but like I might sell it for the next 12 hours, see what happens, and then buy back in. I know that seems weird, like, dude, it's in an uptrend, why would you sell? Because we're in a bear market. And I think we might be at the swing high. That's why. So, that might be breaking out too. I am interested. Just sit and wait, my boys. Sit and wait. Okay. Let me check the YouTube comments again. If there's nothing else, I'll be done for the day. XRP. Will XRP or Ethereum outperform Bitcoin in new trend? I would actually weight that on whichever one starts positive expansion on the 4-hour chart first. That's how I would phrase it. Okay, so FBTC, as soon as the slope of mean period volatility, as soon as the slope of probability volatility, which is the top edge of the 200 band, slopes upward, I know my disk base is almost full. Jesus, chill out, man. All right, we're going to put this as 200. All right, oh, we're getting real close to positive slope there. Yeah, standard quad CCI does imply bullishness of trend, so we can actually set up in a bullish alert here too on the 4 hour. And hold on. So Ethereum, because it has such a high market cap and such a high volume for an altcoin, it is less volatile in terms of long-term trend than a typical altcoin, which means we actually need to look at the 12-hour chart for quad CCI entry. So I'm glad I thought about that. So Ethereum, I would actually be more inclined to say that it's entering a longer-term period of compression, at least maybe until December before next breakout. And that's pretty safe assumption, because last time we were in a significant downward trend and we saw any kind of compression was here, and look how that ended. So I am inclined to think that Ethereum might just go sideways for a while. And I know that's not fun, but it's the logical answer. And I think XRP BTC might be in the same scenario. Except, oh, well, XRP might outperform. High potential energy, upward expansion. Yeah, my bet's on XRP outperforming Ethereum for now. Right, because we're actually getting that same signal. That's a great wave PM cross. Everything was below 0.4. Ooh, yeah, that might do it. Yeah, and XRP is far more cyclical and explosive than Ethereum. So, yeah, I'll just watch this. Might be time to get an XRP position, folks. I think Polana X is the longest history. Yeah. All right. I can get on board. All right, we have a short-term long signal. And then because this is just so damn cyclical, it might be worth taking a small position. Like right now, this very second. Of course, if we see a lower low, cool, stop out, move on. But we got the volume on the shorter time frame, so consider it. Oof. Because this price action reminds me of this price action, where we have the huge pump up with good volume, with a short compressionary period, and then trend continuation. That's absolutely massive. So I would consider a small long an XRP at this time. Okay. Hey Shark, what about EOS? Okay. Man, I have never liked the EOS chart. It just always appears volatile, and trends are very short-lived. Like, this is a short-term mean reversion day trading chart. I would not attempt anything longer term here. And then even then, the mean reversions are super quaint. I don't know, man. This is not my chart. I do not like to trade this. I'm not gonna elaborate too deeply here. No, I don't like it. Sorry. Because quad CCI is not respected, and mean reversions are frequent, but happen on a small enough time frame to not really be all that profitable. There are better options to trade. That's just my opinion. All right, that's it. I love you guys. I'll see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. for real this time. I'll try to be on time. I promise I'll do it this time. I just like hiking so much, and I get lost. Not like physically, but like emotionally in the mountains. And it's just so nice to be in the trees, in the forest, and the rivers. I mean, you know, sometimes be 14,000 feet in the air and on the top of a sawtooth ridge, and it's 80 degrees, or sorry, 80 mile an hour winds, and it's 30 degrees, and you feel like you might die. And that feels really good, because then it makes crypto trading less stressful. So, stress management. I love it. All right, bye guys. Ciao.